Hi everybody, Lori here for Simon Says Stamp. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got a clean and colorful project to share with you featuring the Beautiful Blooms layering stencil set along with the coordinating stamp set. So here is the Beautiful Blooms stencil set. Comes with 3 stencils in the package, and it is kind of a layering, so you can layer up. What I love about this is it's got the sentiment hugs right in the center with all these blooms and foliage kind of framing it. So I'm going to start with a panel of Hammermill white cardstock. I've got it cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and the stencils have little, like, what do you call it, registration marks. There's lines, so you can perfectly line it up with an A2 size panel. Now I'm using the Simon Says Stamp white glass mat and the Waffle Flower grit mat, like the largest one. I keep the grit mat on this white glass mat all the time, and it holds down your cardstock, holds down your stencil, and it also holds down your ink pad. And I'm going to be using all Pawsitively saturated inks, starting with the shade Carnation, and I'm going to do kind of a warm tone gradient color scheme going down. So I start at the top with the pink, and then I'm going to move on to the very light kind of corally red, which is Cheeky. And I'm also using the Simon Says Stamp large blender brushes. And the little U that hangs down in the stencil, I'm kind of an aggressive blender, but you do kind of have to be careful in that little part. Hold it down with your finger, or use some Peachy spray on the back of your stencil if you want to hold that down really securely. But I didn't want to take the time. I do have 2 cans of Peachy spray, but I didn't think to spray it beforehand. So I just hold it down with my finger. That's the redneck method. Now we're moving on to Peachy. So we're going Carnation, Cheeky, Peachy, Lemonade. And if I forget to mention a color, all the supplies that I use for this card will be listed in the description box if you're watching on YouTube. And now here we have Lemonade, trying to get a nice seamless blend throughout these 4 colors. And it's very easy because the Pawsitively saturated inks blend like butter. They really do. It's like smearing frosting. Okay, so that's stencil number 1, lining up stencil number 2. And now this also has the hugs, but it's slightly smaller, so you get that little bit of frame action. And now for this second stencil, I'm going tone on tone, but slightly darker shades. So since I used Carnation before, now I'm using Peony. And also, I switched to the small blender brushes because it kind of helps to get in the smaller nooks and crannies of this stencil. So I just want this to be 1 shade darker than what I blended before. Here I moved into blush because before I did Cheeky. So I'm staying in the color family, but kind of, not introducing new colors. I just want it to be a darker shade. And I love, these are my go-to colors. When people ask me, I get questions all the time, what's your go-tos for Pawsitively saturated inks? I can rip those off with the back of my hand. That's not even the right way to say it, but you know what I mean. Like, these are my go-to shades: Peony, blush, Peachy, grapefruit, lemonade, sunbeam. Love these. Okay, so here we have peeling off stencil number 2, and there's only 1 stencil left. This is a very easy project to put together. Again, line it up with those registration marks. Can't really see that on camera, but this one is more like foliage and then just the centers of the blooms. Now for the foliage, I decided, since everything else has got a bit of a gradient feel, I'm going to do half of the leaves with celery, and then the other half of the leaves or the foliage with seafoam. So it'll give you that kind of gradient feel, and really it's just a nice way to get more color into this. So, because you've got the pinks, the reds, the orange, yellow, green. Why not throw in a little aqua? I love it. I feel like seafoam is such the perfect light, airy aqua, and it goes so well with celery. So you've got these kind of green aqua leaves. And then for the centers of these blooms, I took out rose, which is a very intense, deep color, but it looks so good for the darker shade on that peony bloom. And then I pulled out pucker, and that's the darkest shade in the red family. But I am going down here on these orange blooms, so it's kind of orangey red, but that pucker, that pucker will punch you. You better pucker up for pucker. I mean, also the other thing about these dark inks is they're very juicy. You do not need very much on your brush. And I have scrap paper. You don't really see it, but down there on the right, I've got scrap paper. And every time I ink up my brush, I'm always kind of going off to the side to make sure I don't oversaturate my blender brushes. So there you have it. And you can stop right there, but I wanted to use the coordinating Beautiful Bloom stamp set because some of the leaves, you can see they're just kind of, they're like, they don't have any stems. And so you can bring in that extra detail with the stamp set. And now I'm going to stamp these with celery ink. It's very, very light. You could definitely go darker. You could even stamp them with black. But I wanted something ultra subtle. Very subtle. So I have to stamp it a few times to get it to actually show up. But I love that very subtle celery kind of detail on the foliage. And I'm just working my way around for all the leaves that are in the design here. Just stamping those with celery. Sometimes I line it up perfectly. Sometimes I don't get it exactly lined up, but it's okay. We're going to roll with it. I kind of like that offset look sometimes. That's what I tell myself when I don't get things lined up perfectly. I say, I kind of dig that offset look. That's a good way to just rationalize your mistakes. And then now for the blooms, again, I'm trying to keep that tone on tone vibe. So Peachy, I do have to stamp it probably 2 or 3 times to get it to actually show up. But I still want to keep it subtle. So you could have maybe gone with a darker shade, but you can see how you get that little bit of detail there on the leaves, but it's not like overpowering. I'm into the subtle vibe. I love that kind of no line watercolor look where you can kind of sort of see the outline, but it's not stark. Okay, and then for a few of those little yellow blooms down at the bottom, just stamping those with, I think this is lemonade ink. Again, I have to stamp it a few times. And then on the top, pulling out Carnation. This one only needs to be stamped 1 time. And then a couple more blooms right up there at the top. And now there's a few different sentiments in the Beautiful Bloom stamp set that I'm going to use one. And it's going to go right in the center. I thought about embossing it in white and make a little sentiment strip. But then I decided just to stamp it black. Right there in the center, it says sending love and hugs. Now I pulled out the guillotine trimmer, the old Tim Holtz maxi guillotine trimmer. I've got them in all sizes now. Got the mini, got the comfort, got the maxi. I mean, if he comes out with another one, I'll probably get that one too. I just love them. Trimmed off a little bit. Gonna pop this up. I'm using the Big Mama foam tape. Popping this up on a buttercream card base. Very, very subtle. Few star shine embellishments for a little blingity bling. 3 on the bottom, 2 on the top. Call it a day. It's a relatively flat card. Very simple. I love the subtle gradient, warm tones here. So there you have it. Beautiful Blooms layering stencil set with the coordinating stamp set. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sending you love and hugs today. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.